Hello, so welcome to Comfy Cozy Up. So yeah, we are now in August, and I don't know how I feel about that yet, guys, because the summer's kind of going too fast for me. But we're here to talk about what happened in July. So July, I read 13 books, and two of the 13 were a graphic novel. I also participate in the Rush readathon, the Read and Rush readathon. So that boosts the how much that boosts the amount of book I had because I read 6 books during that week alone. So I am very happy about it, and not only that, I had some 5 stars in in um in July, and I definitely have 2 books that there has to be some really good books for these books not to make my favorite books of the year. They're memorable and they make me feel so good. So I'm gonna just go ahead and quickly talk about them so this video don't be long. But most of these books I did do a reading vlog, and so check out my reading vlog because I go into more detail of how I feel about the book and the characters, the writing, all that good stuff. So the first 4 books is gonna be the only ebooks that I've read, and the other 9 are physical books. So we're gonna talk about Chelsea Maria, and these 2 books that I read from her are very short. They are under 150 pages, so these are really nice to read in between some of your books, and these are beautiful romance. So the first one is More Than a Crush, and it is a friends to lovers trope. So it was just right up my alley. I love the characters. I love the storyline. I thought it was very sweet, and it didn't give me it didn't do too much. It was just a good read. It wasn't perfect, but it's definitely a story that I think a lot of people will enjoy. The second book is I'll Be Good to You, and this is one of my favorite of the 2 books because it dealt with a male character who was going through a lot and made some really bad decisions, and that could have really affected his entire family and ruined his life. And he decided to go to Jamaica to kind of find himself, to kind of have this spiritual awakening, and came back and wanted a good life, wanted romance, in wanted to have a spiritual romance connection with a woman. And it just so happened to be a matchmaker that his sister set him up with, and it's just how their relationship come together, and all the other issues that they had, mostly on her side, that complicated why their relationship had an issue in the beginning. The next one is Two by Vi Keelan, and Vi Keelan is an author that I've read several of her books, and they are hit or misses for me, and they have a certain trope that I cannot stand in the last few books, and these 2 books didn't have that, and I was so happy. So the first one is We Shouldn't, and this is an office romance. This is a couple who are gunning for the same position, and this particular promotion will give both will get promotion, but one would have to leave the city to go to Texas, and of course nobody wants that, so they're really going for each other. But it's that playful, sweet, tropey kind of interaction that they're going through, and how they fall for each other, and then they have to decide, oh my god, one of us is gonna have to make a tough decision if we're selected to go to Texas. So that's where that story comes in, and I really enjoyed it. It was sweet. The last one is the one that I felt like I love how she took that story, and it's called All Grown Up. And this one is an older woman, younger man situation, and it's like a perfect summer read because they are on a beach house setting, and we have this woman who is was married at a young age, became a mother and a wife by the time she was 18, and almost 20 years in this relationship, it ended, and it didn't end great, and it stripped her of her identity, who she thinks she is, and having to find herself in the midst of that, getting back into the dating scene. And she decided to take a chance on online dating, but she was matched with someone who was younger. I believe he's 12 years younger. I think I think he's like 12 years younger. But they had like a nice chemistry, how they were talking to each other, but she was still skeptical. She wasn't a big fan of, him, being that young. And it turned out when they did finally meet that he happened to be, a boy that used to babysit her son. So just imagine the shock of both of them realizing, like, oh wait, they knew each other. But I like in this the growth, the whole idea of him allowing her to do the things that she didn't get to do or wanted to do, because even though he was younger than her, he's had way more life experience than she did. She was very confined in the marriage that she was in, and very much couldn't do a lot of things she wanted to do. So I love that. So I would say out of that one is one of my favorite Vikings. I really love how that was done, and it was tasteful, and it was sexy, but it was also had these inspirational moments. Like you can do all the things you want to do in the midst of you finding romance. So yeah. So we're gonna go to the physical books now. And the first book is definitely one of my favorite book of the year, and that is City Girls. And this is by Elizabeth Gilbert. Now, this book, I am still in awe from this book, because this book gave me historical fiction that will definitely be memorable for most people that love historical fiction. It is Broadway in the 1940s, and it's a story that is told in a bit of a biographical, what am I saying? Biographical way. So we have a woman who is now in her 90s, and she received a letter from a woman who wanted to know what did her father mean to her. And she decided to give us a rundown of what happened. How her life was when she moved to New York, and how she met him. And you are reading this book, and majority of this book, you do not know who this guy is at first. I believe I forgot what page did I get to. It was almost like maybe 100 pages at the end of the book, and this book is about 430 something pages. So just imagine reading in the suspense of like why. But it at first it felt like, why would she want to talk about this, giving us all these details? But then you kind of appreciate it when it gets close to when you find out who the guy is, because you realize why those stories of how she got to the Broadway, how she became a seamstress, and some of the scandalous behavior that was going on then. I thought it was very interesting. I also love the reference to World War II and how it affected the people who went to war, as well as the people who stayed back and had to do certain jobs and live certain life because of that, and what the damages was for some who came back. So I love that. But this book is so much that goes on into the story. I did a full review. Please check it out. I did a reading vlog for this. But I really love this story. This is definitely was a 5-star for me, and I am here for it. The next book is a book that is an art that I got, and that is The Nipple Boys by Colson Whitehead. And this one is also a memorable story in a way where it had that sadness, but it also had a taste of reality. And this is something that is loosely based on a reform school in Florida that did some horrible things to young black boys who were there, and they, I believe in 2014, they had it was unfolded of what happened there, and there were boys who got killed there, and no one knew why. So this is he took that inspiration to create this story of the Nipple Boys, and they are at this reform school, and there's a young boy in there who is basically got accused of a crime he didn't do, and now he's there thinking this is the least of the punishment he could have received, not realizing he walked into hell. And you've seen how some people there are trying to survive but also desperately want to escape, and what happened to them if they attempt, and also how the system used them for money, used them for as a form of slavery. They were working community service that really wasn't community service. They were doing illegal things there for to make money off these boys. And the scars and the impact of those who survived it and life after. But there's like a nice twist to the story that did surprise me, and I feel like a lot of people will get surprised, and also very emotional. But it didn't make me cry. It was more of a certain sadness that you get knowing that this is based on a true story, and that there was some boy out there that this story represented. So yeah. The next one is the only crime thriller. Is it the only crime thriller? Yeah, the only crime thriller I have read, which is The Chain. And I also did a review of this, and this is one of those books where I felt like, yeah, boys will be boys, a man thought about this story, but it is very clever. It is a story about a chain of kidnapping. So they will kidnap a child, and that parent has to kidnap another child in order to get her child back. So it goes on, and it just so happened that one of the mother that this happened to basically fought back in a way that surprised the predators. They did not anticipate that would happen, but it's how they select the victims, because they knew how to select vulnerable mothers and fathers and people who would do anything for their kid, including break the law, including harming an innocent child, all of that. It's a book that was frustrating. I screamed, I hollered a couple of times. I'm like, oh my God, this is stupid. And then at the same time, I wanted to continue to turn the pages. It just did that to me. But it is an interesting. I do feel like this will probably be a movie. I would not be surprised, because it had all the elements of a movie that you want to see. All right, so the next book is when I started the Rush series, which I talked about already. So these are going to be brief, and that is Mima. Now this one, oh my God, this is like a gem. This is that short story that you just you're not going to forget. And it is a tale of a man now who is talking about his mother and things that happen, and you are realizing how strong his mother was. His mother was a ride or die woman that is going to protect her family, including her husband, her kids, and she will have that machete out and ready to swing if she has to. And it gave me all that. It is also a little bit of a bravery for that mother, and she was very smart, and she knew what she was doing, even when you reading it and you're thinking, oh my God, that might be a mistake, but it was not. It was just, I just love the mother. This is that mother that he just, the mother in this, I mean, I just love her. And again, I love the folk tale, because it has a lot of African folk tale about that town and their beliefs that's wrapped up into that, and how the stories that there's like a lot of these stories in this book that reflects on their culture, and the stories are very interested, and has that message to it that is great. So yeah, I was here for this. All right, the next book that is definitely a book that if I don't have that much book on my TV, I would reread this, and that is In the West Mill. Oh my God, this is a debut novel by Deshaun Charles Winslow, and oh my God, like, I'm so tempted to reread this book. this book gave me everything. It is also just so happens to be another historical fiction, but this one is in North Carolina, and this is that juicy small town scandal, but that family, that love, that bond that you just have with small people that live in small town. And it so happened a woman, she moved to this town in North Carolina, and she is basically escaping her family, and she's there, but she's going through it. She is drinking. She is basically sleeping with multiple guys whenever she feels like it. But she has a neighbor, and he sees something in her that reminds him of his sister, and the sister that he couldn't save. So he just like wants to protect her and do everything. But he's also married, and it's one of those where she's like his sister, but he's like treating her like family, and it's like all these complicated things. And every time she makes a bad decision, he's there to help her through it. And sometimes those bad decisions caught up to her, and over the years it affect her because of how I feel like sometimes their relationship encourage other people to do bad. And but didn't she wasn't like that person. I didn't think she was weak. I think she was one of those that saw her mistake but still fortunate. It's just life. It's just there's some people who will constantly do stuff, but there's something about them that people will still go out their way to help them and make sure they are good. And this is what this book gave me, and it was just I don't even know. I just think you should read this. Just read it. Read it and come back to me. Come back to me and tell me how you love it. Yeah. And I already had somebody read it recently that is not a social media person, and he loved it. So that's how much I'm like riding for this book. Read it. The next book that I read is a book that I'm still scratching my head like, what the hell did I read? And that is Nine Perfect Strangers. I cannot talk today, guys. Nine Perfect Strangers. And this book is one of the most weird book I've read, that is supposed to be a bit contemporary, a bit psychological thriller, and something else mixed up in it. It was just so unbelievable. Why was I so wrapped up in this book? This is, if you are old school, The Breakfast Club. So think of like the misfit people that is put into a situation, and they're supposed to learn from it. They're supposed to learn from it themselves, and kind of, it's a weird situation. But in this case, we have 9 people at a retreat resort, and it's supposed to be a life-changing situation. They all have baggage. We're talking, we have 3 that are mother, father, and daughter, and their son committed suicide, so they're grieving. Then we have a woman whose career, she is like, had all these books, and her career has been pretty much going down the toilet, and she just got scammed. So you have that situation. And then you also have a athlete whose career is all washed up now, and he's just trying to find himself. You have a couple who won the lottery, and they went from not having anything to having it all, and having it all is also causing complication. You have a mother who is, pretty much her husband left and moved on, and she's struggling, and it was just all these things that was going on. And the owner of the resort is also a basket case, and using these tactics that's supposed to make these people tap into their inner thought and heal and try to be a certain way. But she's also extreme with it, where all of a sudden her situation got mixed in the storyline. Let me tell you, this ending of this book was like probably the most bizarre ending of a book I've ever read. Like, I just thought, huh? Like, that's it? That kind of reaction I had. But for some reason, if this was a freaking movie, oh yeah, this probably be good. And I think she is a TV person. She did Big Little Lies, and she knows how to do these complicated weird characters and weird storyline, but reading it just wasn't that great for me in certain parts of the story. But she could definitely put this into some TV, because the things that went on was entertaining, but it's just had dry moments. So that's the part I didn't like. And then we're just going to talk about the other two, which are graphic novel. And we have volume 8 for Saga, and then volume 9 for Saga. Now, volume 8 was so good, like so good. Like this series keep getting better and better. I can't tell you much about them because you just have to start from the beginning. But it's what it is. It's just basically two people from two different worlds, and they decide to hook up and have a kid, which is forbidden, and they're on the run, and there's always somebody trying to kill them. That's the best I can give you. And then the ninth one, which is the last one that's out right now, oh my god, the ending in this one will blow your mind, because I am still shocked. I'm still like, what? It is very sexy, very adult. So, there's some weird naked bodies going on in here, and some sex scene that is funny as hell to me. But, if you're reading this in public, you might get a side eye from somebody. So, yeah. And then, of course, the book that surprised me in the reading rush was also a modern classic that finally got off my TBR, and that is To Kill a Mockingbird. So, guys, yeah, this happened. This happened in July. This is probably the most happiest I've been, because I felt like I haven't been reading any modern classic this year. And also, this is a classic that one of my mom's favorite books. She loves this one, and Great Expectation by Charles Dickens, which I'm going to read eventually. I did see the movie of that one, but never read the book. So I am definitely happy I read this, and I also watched the movie. So if you want to see my reaction, check out that vlog, the Reading Rush vlog, and see how I felt about the movie and stuff. But this was, I liked it. It was, I want to say this is one of my favorite books of all time. Absolutely not. But I do like it. I do have to read it in and thought about the time period of when the book was written, because this is one of them books that had the N-word all over it every minute. So yeah. So I do find that there are times where I was laughing where it probably wasn't funny, but I was entertained. The writing was amazing, and yeah, so if you really don't know what the book's about, I mean, everybody probably do. I feel like I'm the last person I haven't read it yet. When I made the video, there's some comments of people say they haven't read it, but it's basically a white man with two kids, and he is representing a black man that was accused of raping a white woman, which didn't happen. You know how that went. And these kids are like, basically, they're very adventurous, and the story is told through the girl in this little girl. She's about 8 years old, and she's going through growing and adventurous, want to put herself in a situation that's a bit interested, and how the town treated them when they found out that he's going to represent a black man. So it's that kind of story, but the writing, like I said, is amazing. I do feel like this is why it's probably one of the reasons why it's probably popular, not just the storyline but the writing. And it's also a classic that I feel like everybody should read, and take from it what you will, because like I said, it does have that that element of touchy situation. Yeah. So yeah. So that's the last book I read. I did start reading a book from the Man Booker long list. I have the book somewhere, but I am reading that book, and I'll definitely tell you what I feel about it in this month. And I have a few other haul. I need to do a haul because I've picked up quite a few books in the last month and a half that I haven't really talked about, even though some of them are in here. I did. So I'm probably gonna do that. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and let me know if you read any of these books, what you felt, and also what is your favorite book that you read in July. I love to hear about people's favorites, because a lot of times when I see people's favorites, I will add it to my future TBR. So yeah, and thanks for watching, guys, and have a good day. Bye.